Hello students, we were on unit 4 and this is after part 1 and 2. This will be the third part in continuation of whatever the lessons that are left in unit 4. As you are aware that in unit 3 we had started with the welfare measures. We will continue with that, but just to recapitulate that, welfare measures refer to physical, mental, moral and emotional well-being of an individual. These contribute to better work environment. Welfare measures we'll see inside the workplace. Inside the workplace, conditions of work environment. In the conditions of work environment, we have neighborhood safety, cleanliness, attention to approaches, control of effluents. Then upkeep of premises, compound wall, lawns, gardens, passages, doors, whitewashing of walls, etc. We have sanitation and cleanliness, temperature control, humidity, ventilation, lighting, elimination of dust and smoke. And then we have provision for rest hours, meal timings and breaks. Workmen's safety measures, fencing of machines, providing helmets, aprons, goggles and first aid, etc. Notice boards, posters, pictures, slogans, information for communication. After seeing the conditions of workplace, the second part is the conveniences. Conveniences will include restrooms, wash bases, bathrooms, provisions for spit-ons, waste disposal, provision for drinking water, water coolers, canteen services, full meal, mobile canteen, management of workers' cloakrooms, restrooms, reading room, library. Then workers' health services. The workers' health services include the health center, dispensary, ambulance, emergency aid, medical examination for workers, health education and health research. This we have done in the previous lesson also. It was just repetition. Now we will continue further after seeing the conditions, conveniences and workers' health services. The next part is the welfare measures, women's and child welfare inside the organization or inside the system. Then these include sketches, separate lunch rooms, toilets, restrooms, family planning services for women and child welfare. Workers' recreations, this will include indoor games, gyms, etc. Employment follow-up, this will include adjustment problem, workload, supervisors and colleagues. Then economic services, that is we have for loans, thrift, saving schemes. Then next we have is the labor management services and that will include formation of various committees, and we have workers' education, reading room, library, literacy classes, etc. Then we have is the welfare measures outside the workplace. Outside the workplace, that is housing, single housing, family residences, etc. Then water, sanitation, waste disposal outside the workplace, roads, lighting, parks, playgrounds, schools, markets, cooperative societies, banks, transport, post offices, health and medical services. These are all measures outside the workplace in terms of welfare measures. Then we have is the welfare measures as per the statutory provisions. So we have seen inside the workplace, outside the workplace and statutory provision, that is the government regulations or various things by acts, that is the Factories Act, the Mines Act, the Plantation Labour Act, Motor Transport Workers Act, the Contract Labour Act, then the Merchant Shipping Act, Dock Workers Safety Act, Interstate Migration Working Act, etc. After having seen the various welfare measures under the three headings, now we go on to the employee relations or human relations. Employee relation, nature and meaning. Employee relation or human resource includes all those aspects of HRM where employees are dealt with collectively. The main thing to see is collective nature of employees. That is all the employee relations. In addition to the industrial relation, employee relations also include, that is, participative management, employee welfare, employee development, employee remuneration, employee safety and health, and the like of it. So, employee relations and human relations are more than the industrial relations. So, in the industrial relation, what we see is meaning and nature of industrial relations. It is concerned with the relation between the management and the workers and the role of regulatory mechanism in resolving industrial disputes. So there are three parties to it: the management, the workers, and the regulatory provisions. Now, industrial relations, as we see the diagram, in that first on the left corner, employer, right corner, employee, then we have the trade unions and the employers association also. So employees and trade unions and employer and employers association. Then we have between both the parties government rules, awards and policies, and then usages, customers and traditions for that. We will see the meaning of each one of them. Then it will cover collective bargaining, role of management and unions of the government, machinery for resolution of industrial disputes, then individual grievances and disciplinary policy and practice, then labor legislation and industrial relation training. So industrial relation, collective bargaining, role of management, unions and government, machinery for resolution of industrial disputes, individual grievances and labor legislation, industrial relations training. Industrial relations, collective bargaining, what do we mean? This takes place when representative of labor union meet management representative to determine employees' wages and benefits and to solve other issues. So collective, that is on behalf of all the employees, there is a trade union and the trade union has got elected representatives from among the employees and they represent the employees and basically to determine wages and benefits to solve other issues of the employees. Then it is collective because the chosen representative of the employees union act as bargaining agents for all employees in carrying out negotiations and dealings with management. So here important point, it is for all employees. That is why it is called collective bargaining. Then it is the most effective method of resolving industrial dispute because it affects all the employees. The next we have is what we say collective bargaining procedure kind of. First of all, deciding on the negotiation team as to which particular team will be represented by the management, which team will be represented by the employees union. Then we have time set for that. What are the issues? Those particular issues will be addressed. So planning for negotiation. That on what basis there will be something for which the replies can be prepared in advance before the meeting. Then the presentation of demands by the trade unions. Once that presentation takes place, then there are negotiations on that. And then bargaining over the demand. Naturally, there will be more and more demands from the employees union and as little as possible to be given by the management also. Then winding up the bargaining. After the bargaining has been over, if the outcome is successful, the agreement is signed and administration is in agreement. Then if it is unsuccessful, then outcomes may be not agreement but fresh negotiations or some dispute may take place also. So this is the procedure. First, deciding on the negotiating team, planning for the negotiation, presentation of demands, bargaining over demands, winding up the bargaining, then successful or unsuccessful, successful, agreement is signed and administration of the agreements is done. If it is unsuccessful, then either and further negotiations are required or some dispute may take place. Let's see the next one, importance and significance of industrial relation. Good industrial relations imply peaceful, harmonious, fruitful relation between labor and the management, which is the most desired thing in any organization for that matter. Then the benefits of industrial relations are industrial peace. Management and labor consultant motivate workers to give their best. Improved productivity, if the individuals give their best, then naturally productivity will be improved by ensuring uninterrupted production, and it becomes easy for doing the difficult task also. Then benefits to the worker, with higher production, the management can offer more economic, non-economic incentives to employees and workers. So approaches to industrial relations. So we'll go approaches to industrial relations. Industrial relations in the center, start from the middle, unitary approach. We will study all these things in the subsequent lecture. That is the pluralistic approach, system approach, social action approach, Marxist approach, Janadhan approach, human relations approach, Giri approach, industrial psychology approach, and Oxford School approach. So let's see one by one. Unitary approach, that management has all the authority with no right to challenge its decision by the employees. Then pluralistic approach, balance of power is maintained between the management and the employees, and it believes in negotiated settlement. Naturally, mutually compromises for both the things are required. Then system approach, that it assumes that the behavior, action and role of the individuals are shaped by the cultures of the society, value systems and characteristics of the society. Influence the outcomes, behavior to solve the industrial dispute. So there is a system itself takes care of reducing the industrial dispute. Then the next is our social action report. While in system approach, the society plays the dominant role, while the employer and the employees keep a low profile. But in social action approach, both the roles are active, both the employer as well as the employees. Then the Marxist approach, it views the management as a capitalist out to exploit the employees, and power struggle is inevitable, so all means are adopted to gain power. Gandhian approach, it is the utility of non-violence based and truth and non-violence, voluntarily arbitration and wantonness to solve industrial dispute. Then the next one was our human relations approach. This aims to make policies and techniques which can improve employee motivation, morale, efficiency and job satisfaction to prevent any industrial dispute. Giri approach, it insists on establishment of bi-party forums at different levels to resolve the disputes. The industrial sociology approach, it focuses on preventive measures to conflicts by tracing the cause of disputes and then avoiding it. At Oxford School, the increase the earnings, mutually beneficial ways must be found for convenience of interest with primary responsibility of the management. So these were various approaches to industrial relations. Next we see is grievance. What is meant by grievance? That grievance may be understood as a employee's dissatisfaction or feeling of personal injustice relating to his or her employment relations. Reasons for grievance usually restricted to violation in terms of employment, which may be due to violation of laws, violation of intent of parties, then violation of company rules, or a change in the working conditions of the employee without practice, and then a violation of health and safety standards. So in this process that we have complaint to the head of the department, then the left side, if it is yes, the grievance is resolved by the head of the department. If it is no, then actually it will be going to the next party, that is the complaint to the departmental head, and then if it is yes, the grievance is resolved by the, if it is not, then it will be going to the divisional head, and if it is resolved, then the grievance is, if it is no, then it goes to the complaint to the union. So we have starting from the section head to the departmental head to the divisional head and to the union. HR audit, it involves regular and systematic examination of organization practices and accomplishment vis-a-vis the organization legal requirements. Then it performs two basic functions: facilitate the development of managing processes, controls and evaluates the policies. It leads to the company's question, are there adequate